Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 3. We're going to be covering a lot of exciting stuff today about mindset and confidence. And this is one of my favorite topics that I learned last April. So, going on year and a half that I've been using this as I've been using it in my practice, and it's really now the foundation. So it was really important to me that we cover this information before the exercise, before a lot of the seemingly more important things when it comes to physical health and well-being and fall prevention. But when I took this course, it taught me just how vital our mindset is and how big of an impact what we believe about aging has on our physical outcomes, short term and long term, especially long term. So I hope you find it as fascinating as I do and enjoy the content. Um, I do want to do a quick check-in from last week. So just to review, the homework that I had given last week was a few things. So I'll go over that now. Number one was to go ahead to the back of the book and fill in October and all the numbers and make a plan for your goals. So if you have a goal, I know one of you has a goal to do the Otago program twice a week. Some of you, I think, have other exercise goals, and I don't know exactly what they are. So whatever your goal is, fill that in and you can do it. This is a good place to do it because it's in the workbook, but if you already have a calendar that you use regularly, you can put it into that. And what I recommend and what I personally do is that you set a time and set a day and keep it like you would keep a doctor's appointment or keep it like you would keep a lunch with a friend. Like this is your appointment with yourself to take care of your body that will help you meet your long-term goals. So um, I do recommend writing it down as an appointment and it helps you to stay in that habit a little better. Okay, then I had asked you guys to fill out 23 and 24. So I wanted to review that. Page 23 is the falls efficacy scale. And basically the total number is out of 64. And the higher you rate, like say you have 50 out of 64, then that's going to be a higher concern about falling, obviously. But it places you into different categories of your fall risk. So if you have a 16 to 19, then they categorize that as a low risk of a low concern. So it's having a lower impact on your risk of falling, basically. Um, if you scored a 20 to 27 out of 64, then you have a moderate concern about falling, a moderate fear of falling, in other words, which is having a moderate impact on your risk of falling. If you have anything over 20, if you have 28 or over, then your fear and concern around falling is having a bigger impact on your risk of falling. So this ties into today's content a lot because of you'll see how big of an impact the mindset can have on your physical risk of falling. And you may, if you did score, a 28 or over, even if you're in that moderate concern range, you might want to consider taking module 2 to heart and doing some of the exercises and looking at your beliefs there. Then with Page 24, the fall related attitude survey. This is just a fun one to go through. I think, well, fun is a relative word. I think it's a fun one because it taps in. A lot of these are like the Mythbusters game that we did on our first day with true or false questions, and falling is a normal part of growing old. Most falls cannot be prevented. So there's some that are good to check your knowledge of, but then some of them are like falling is humiliating and embarrassing. So it ties into your beliefs around falling. I feel ashamed to tell other people that I fell down. So please go through these. If there's any questions or anything that you want to talk about in the group or privately, please send me an email. If you are ashamed to talk about falls, please send me an email or bring it up in the group, and we can talk about strategies and ways to reduce the shame around falling and talking about it, because I want it to be a conversation like, I don't want it to be like politics and finances where you have to be really careful about who you talk about it with. I want this to be kind of like how you would just talk about it with anybody. And the more that you talk about it, especially with your friends, other people are going to be having that same fear as you. So it's so often that I might bring up something that I'm struggling with in my life, and all my friends are going through it too. So I hope that you guys do feel safe to talk about this topic with everyone. It makes sense that there are certain people that it would be scarier to talk about falls with because they could have emotional or physical consequences. So we're just trying to reduce those as much as possible. Okay, next I had asked you guys to do pages 8 to 17 and 22. So just go ahead. Those are all these pages that you're going to fill in the blank with your fall prevention team. By now, hopefully all of you have very specific goals for our 8 weeks together regarding your exercise. I hope by now that you guys have a good reason behind why you're wanting to do this class, and something that really is going to motivate you to do the exercises on the hard days when you are this close to talking yourself out of it. Oh, I just really don't want to exercise today. And then this reason can be that just tip the scales a little bit, like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Or my body's really saying no today. I'm going to honor my body today, but I'm going to make it a high priority tomorrow. Something like that. And then the brainstorming pages. And what else? If you had wanted to do the fall log, to get a little better idea of if there's a pattern to your falls, that would be pages 14 and 15. And then page 17 is your fall risk factors. This is a really good exercise if you're wanting to learn more about your body and just kind of get onto one page all of the things that could be putting you at fall risk. And then page 22. This one is a fall prevention plan, and you can just go down this second column and check anything that just at a first glance that you know already that there are problems. So, you know, if you've had recent falls, just go ahead. Yep, recent falls. If you know that your legs are weak, yep, okay, there's problems with my strength and balance. They're not where I want them to be. Excuse me. Fear of falling, you get the idea. So that just is like a quick, this is kind of like in the screening and assessment part of the fall prevention plan. So then if you want, as we go, we'll keep coming back to this page throughout the course, and you can decide if you want to bring anybody in to assess those items more directly. and do something about it. Okay, so we did that. Want to check in and see, make sure everyone is still trying to remember to stand up with little to no use of your hands. So wherever you're starting, just do a little bit less. So if you need your hands to push up, that's totally cool, especially if you're getting out of a low chair, or say you're like on a low toilet at your friend's house or something. And you need that hand assistance, that's totally fine, but just want to keep it in our awareness to just try to remember as much as possible just throughout your day. This is the reason I like this one so much, is that you don't have to add exercise. It's not like a dedicated time block. It's just something that you're already going to stand up from the couch and go get food. So if you can just be more intentional about the way that you're standing up, it's in these little moments, a little goes a long way, or a little bit adds up to a lot. You guys know what I'm trying to say. So hope that you guys are still remembering to do that every once in a while. And I know that there's one person having issues with school. We're going to work on that later today. So if you are still having trouble logging into school, just reach out. Okay. Now, I don't know why I put that over here, because we are going to use it. I'm going to have everyone turn to page 32. And it should look like this. So just off the first, what is your gut reaction to this statement? I have a positive stereotype about aging, I have a neutral stereotype about aging, or I have a negative stereotype about aging. So just at first glance, what do you think? Now, I want you to actually pause this video, because this is what we would have done if you guys were here, is that we would have, I would have given you 5 minutes for these next 2 pages. So I want you to write down my beliefs and language about aging, my family's friends, providers' language about aging, and society's language and actions around aging. So I just want you to write down the first things that come to your mind. This is, what are the messages that you're telling yourself about aging? Are you looking in the mirror? What are the first things you think of when you think of aging? So without influencing you and getting into the teaching part, I just want you to pause the video here. Please, please, please really do this exercise. Take 5 minutes and just jot down all of the first things that come to your mind. Okay. Now, if you didn't pause the video, I'm going to give you a second chance to pause the video and really go do this exercise, because it is that important. This, like I said, this is the foundation to everything else we're going to do. I cannot stress the importance enough of making sure that you are aware of your mindset when it comes to everything else that we're going to talk about. So, second opportunity to pause. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to watch a funny SNL video, because this stuff is heavy. And I will just tell you now that when I first did this, I thought that I had a positive stereotype about aging, because I have been working with older adults for the majority of my career, for most of 11 years. And I try my best to not underestimate them. I push them hard. I try not to over help. Like, for example, if I'm in the middle of a workout, there's a lot of different places I've worked where the culture is really giving our patients like 10-minute rest breaks and just talking about, anything and um doing one exercise and, "Okay, do you need a rest break? Okay, do you need to sit down now? Do you need to sit down now?" And so, I've tried really hard to not underestimate any of my patients based on their age. So, for that, I thought that I had a positive age stereotype. And I found out in this course that I took last April that when it comes to others, I have a very positive age stereotype. And when it came to myself, I actually had a negative age stereotype, not even a neutral one. It was very much because this goes into the messages you're telling yourself, such as, oh, my dad has, such and such. So I'm going to have that too. Like, oh, I got my bad circulation from my dad. My legs are gonna be super swollen and terrible when I'm older and da da da. Or like, oh, just assuming that oh, because my parents have this, I'm gonna have this too. Or um, I do have a tendency to pick apart my body and my wrinkles and stuff like that. And so um, I definitely all of us have we live in a society where the messaging around aging is absolutely freaking terrible. And there's every product that you look at every beauty product is about anti-aging, um, wrinkle-free, young, everything. We hold youth on like a pedestal almost where it's like, um, stay young and stuff like that. And so all of the messages are anti-aging, which in itself is impossible. Like every one of us, every human on earth is getting older every second that passes. And so anti-aging is like resisting reality. And it's all just I hope that this conversation really, really makes you aware of everything. I hope the rest of the week, the rest of these 2 months together, that you are just hyper aware now of every message around anti-aging and, um, gosh, some of the titles of the books that are coming out, everything. I think there's something to be said for longevity study, like studying longevity and trying to maximize the time that we have here. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to prevent falls. We're trying to prevent an early injury with an adverse, event from a fall. We're trying to walk and be strong and be out of pain and maximize our time here, but we're not trying to reverse aging. Like reversing aging, I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox now and let's watch a funny SNL video to lighten the heavy topic of aging because okay, final point and then I'll show you the video is that aging does come with a grieving process. And there are lots of changes. There are lots of changes that we don't like, that are uncomfortable, that are painful. And so it must also be acknowledged that aging is hard. It is not for the weary, and it does come with grief. And so by having a positive age stereotype, I am not saying, oh, ignore the downsides of aging. Let's bury our head in the sand and just pretend that we're cool with this, with everything. No, it can be hard. It can be heavy. There's a lot of grief and hard things. So this is just to hopefully bring some smiles to a topic that can be difficult sometimes. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So there's a little comic relief around the topic of aging. Um, some of that I can already relate to. Um, so now we're going to go back to the workbook and talk about fear of falling. So I'm going to share the screen here. All right. So hope that this is large enough. If you want to follow along in your book, then it'll be page 34. So fear of falling is an excessive concern of losing stability, falling to the ground, and being injured. A natural fear that helps keep us safe. I learned this, it's called basophobia, but can start to limit activity and quality of life as we get older and more unsteady on our feet. So, this one is a natural fear. We want this fear. This is a healthy fear of falling. It helps us with our reflexes and helps us to keep ourselves upright. What we don't want is a phobic reaction to standing or walking. I learned another new word called, I'm assuming the P is silent, so tophobia. Um, this one is a phobic reaction and also includes reductions in balanced self-efficacy, nervous anticipation of falling, and or a harmful avoidance of activity. I have seen this. I will never forget one woman I actually saw um, the worst case of fear of falling that was a phobia, and it is very different. So I would assume that what you guys have is like moderate, maybe severe fear of falling, but not a phobia. Um, where a phobia is severely limiting your mobility. Like this woman was afraid to sit up at the edge of the bed from laying down position. So she was afraid to even sit. Um, I have a potential new patient actually coming up. The daughter made it sound like this woman also has a phobia. So that'd be interesting to see as far as I don't see the phobia very often. It's more so an excessive concern, or like I have a lot of people that are cautious but not afraid of falling. Okay, falls self-efficacy. So this is defined as a person's belief in their ability to undertake certain activities of daily living without falling or losing balance. So this is like, do you believe in yourself to take a shower without falling? Do you believe that you can go to the bathroom in the middle of the night without falling? Um, so that is that one. We're gonna talk a little bit more about self-efficacy in a little bit, but it's essentially like your belief in your abilities, your confidence in your abilities. So a lot of these words are kind of synonymous with each other. So why is this detrimental to us? Why can it be? Fear of falling can lead to accelerated physical decline, weakness and deconditioning from activity restriction, reduced mobility, anxiety and depression, loss of confidence, increased risk of falling again, diminished social activity, and lower quality of life. Now, how can we overcome it? So, first and foremost, we want to address the underlying modifiable risk factors. So this goes back to the stuff we went over in the first 2 weeks. Pages 16 and 17 are where, oh, I don't know if you guys can see my little window, but pages 16 and 17 are where the fall risk factors and my risk factors are. I want you guys to know this in and out. I want you guys to know this like the back of your hand. This is to be used in conjunction with pages 14 and 15. So if you look at 16 and 17, some of these should jump off the page at you, but I highly, highly recommend doing an example on page 14 and 15 that walks you through a specific incident where you fell and really break down to like the nth degree every little teeny tiny detail, and that's going to help you understand, were there any modifiable risk factors in that fall. So let me just make a little note. I think it'd be helpful for us to do some of these together in class and have me walk through them with you. If you had a chance to watch the webinar that I did the week before this class started, there's an example there. So I will email that out too. Webinar. Okay. Example. Okay. So this goes to like that gentleman that I said had a heart attack while playing pickleball. He could not control that he had a heart attack at that moment. But what he can change going forward is his management of his heart health. So you want to do everything that is in your control. Another question I've gotten is around medications and like, well, my doctor is recommending this many medications for safety. So even though this is a blood pressure medication that could be increasing my risk of falling, and I take a sleep medication to increase, that also is increasing my risk of falling, say. Like, is it more important to adhere to the doctor's prescription recommendations or to not take your meds and have a lower risk of falling? So in that case, it is about weighing the risk. So it's like anything with the heart, the brain, certain organs, like that is vital. So I'm never ever saying medications are bad. So whatever prescriptions your doctors are recommending, let me say it a different way. What I am saying is I want you to be having conversations with your doctors about, are there any medications that are redundant here? Are there any medications that I can reduce the dosage? Is there any medications that I can eliminate that maybe I used to need, but now that I've started exercising, can we run blood labs again? Is there anything that I can do away with? Because there are, I mean, I'm going to throw out a number. I was going to say millions of people, which I'm sure there are, but it is so common for people to go from taking like 20 medications to 13 medications, or I've even heard more drastic numbers. I'm pulling these numbers out of thin air, but I heard of a woman that was taking double-digit medications and got down to like 3 or 5 or something like that. So if you want to reduce the number of medications you're taking, that is within the realm of possibilities. And so just having conversations with your doctors about that is something that's in your control. And if they come back and say, nope, you need to be on 17 medications, then take them, follow their advice. But we want to weigh the risk. What's the risk of me not taking this medication versus my risk of falling? So Yes, wanted to touch on that because please, please, please take your prescriptions as prescribed. Um, and if you want to know more about, if you have a lot of medications and want to know more about decreasing them, then we can talk more about that. And we're going to talk more about it in a later chapter, but I feel very strongly about this, and you'll probably hear me say it a lot throughout the course. So, okay. Next thing we can do to overcome fear of falling is to exercise with an emphasis on balance training and fall prevention. So, this is going to help build our confidence and our actual strength and our actual balance. Physical therapy to increase independence, confidence, and self efficacy. So, this goes back to being able to do a little bit higher level balance challenges with a physical therapist. And they don't teach us this in school, but we're just natural cheerleaders. So, it does increase your confidence. And that really is one of my favorite parts of being a physical therapist is how many times, I mean, this happens every single week, probably every day, but, um, is those moments where I give somebody an exercise that they don't think they can do, and then they do it, and then they get so excited that they were able to do it, and they didn't think they could, and it's just a really rewarding moment to help people to watch people's confidence, like, grow in front of my eyes, and I love it. I love that's one of my favorite things about being a PT. My other favorite is teach used to be when I worked in rehab was teaching people how to walk again. That was really, really rewarding too. And had these same moments, of building confidence. Um, Setting small goals is a really good way to overcome fear of falling because you are going to set a goal that's so small that you can't fail. That even if you say that you didn't do any Otago exercises this week, but every time you stood up from the couch, your goal is to stand up with one hand or with no hands. And you did that. And it's like, oh, every time you do that, you're collecting a little bit of evidence that your legs are strong. And so setting the goals small and achieving them, it helps you be successful, gain momentum, and collect evidence that, oh, I am in control of my body. I do have a say in my level of strength and my balance. So that can be really helpful. Challenging negative thoughts. So they have done research that cognitive behavioral therapy exercises might help fear of falling. This is probably in a more extreme case, like towards the phobia. Um, but if you do feel like your fear of falling is significantly limiting what you can do and where you want to go, and um, then it could be worth a conversation with a mental health therapist. Just say, hey, do you have any ideas? This is really starting to impact me in a real way. Um, and they might have some exercises for you to help change these limiting beliefs. Make a plan for if you do fall, and we'll be making sure we cover that in our time together. And then, yeah, mental health counseling and or see a psychiatrist. So that is around fear of falling. Next, we're going to go to page 35. So, creating confidence from the ground up. Why being confident matters. So, confidence is the state of feeling certain about the truth of something, a feeling of self assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. What is confidence in aging? So, this has to do with those positive and negative age stereotypes. So, positive age stereotype is a positive association when you have positive associations with aging over time. So, back at the very beginning of the class, when I had you write down all of your messages from yourself, your family, your friends, society, your providers about aging? Did you have wisdom, wealth, freedom of time, all of the positive things that come with aging? Or was it on the more negative side? The negative age stereotype is the negative beliefs about aging. So when I say, what's the first thing you think of when you think of aging? And you said, moving so slow, falling, I can't remember anything, I'm in pain all the time, then that would be more of a negative age stereotype. And maybe you have the reality is probably that we have a mix of positive and negative, but which one is yours biased towards? That's what's important. So, what is the big deal? Why does having confidence matter? A confident outlook on aging improves recovery from injury or disability. It protects your brain, protects your heart, reduces fall risk, influences your level of independence, your living situation. So, this would be like, are you living at home? Are you living with a family member? Are you living with a caregiver? Are you living in an assisted living? Are you in a long term care facility? Um, your confidence, your outlook on aging can also, um, reduce your risk of an adverse event, your risk of hospitalization, and, increase your ability to cross the street, and can help you live longer and improve your quality of life. Now, I am going to, share a different screen here if I can figure out how. Share. Oh, I think I might be able to. Let's do this one. Okay, so these are slides from the course that I took. So a lot of this research is coming from Becca Levy out of Yale. And there is not a ton of research on it yet, but it is starting to grow. And um, this is really like her baby, is researching the effect that different age stereotypes have on the body and our long-term outcomes. So, with this research study, she took 598 people that were over the age of 70, and um, they were mailed monthly assessments for 11 years. And so all of the assessments were related to age stereotypes, but also their physical level of function and how independent they were and how strong they were. And so disability was defined as anything requiring assistance or the amount of assistance that is required to help you do things. And those with positive age stereotypes were 44% more likely to fully recover from disability. So this is in the grand scheme of things, this would be on the lower end, 598 people. However, they followed them for 11 years. And so the quality of her studies is good, but like I said, more research is needed, but it's starting to grow and grow, and it's just starting to be evident not only with aging, but in all camps that the mind-body connection is vital, is extremely um, impactful. And so the next study that she did found that, so this one had more people, 1,250 people were studied, and they all had this genetic risk factor for dementia, the APOE4. And the mean age was 72 years old. And so this one they observed the rates of dementia for 4 years, and the ones with positive age stereotype were 50% less likely to develop dementia. So, it would be interesting to see what a longer study, if they had studied for 11 years or 15 years, what that would percentage would be. But at the worst case, they could be slowing down their symptoms of dementia, even if they studied it longer and more people were to get it later. Um, I think this is significant. Positive age stereotypes were 50% less likely to develop dementia. I mean, that's huge to me. That is one of the limiting beliefs that I have because um let's see. One of my grandmas had it. My other grandma didn't live long enough to have it. My and I believe one of my grandfathers had it severely. The other one also had a couple or a few strokes, and I was too young. I don't remember if he had dementia. But I have a limiting belief that, like, just because my grandparents had this, I'm gonna have it too. And sometimes I psych myself out and it is human nature, but sometimes when I forget something, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my memory's so bad. I need to work on that so I don't get dementia." And that's really the first place my brain goes. That is very heavy for just forgetting something that, like, used to also forget when I was in middle school. Some stuff is just like, oh, sometimes we just forget things in life or not being able to remember a story. And when I was little, I didn't think anything of it. It's just like, oh yeah, I don't remember what what we did a few months ago, or I don't remember that story. And it didn't carry that extra message of like, and so I'm gonna get dementia. That's a really big difference. So that's something that I'm personally working on. Um, and so I would love to hear if you guys have any of these kind of limiting beliefs around aging as well. Or if you've worked on them and kind of your growth with that would be awesome for you to share. Okay, the next study was with 386 people that were under 49. And this one she tracked for almost 40 years. It was 39 years. Um, and at baseline, they had no history of any cardiovascular issues. And then with over time, people with positive age stereotypes had a cardiovascular event. 13% of people with positive age stereotypes had a cardiovascular event, and 25% of people with negative age stereotypes had a cardiovascular event. So again, relatively small sample size, but that is almost double the amount of cardiovascular events when you had a negative age stereotype. So that is significant. Um, and then with this last study here, they studied walking speed and negative perceptions of aging. They took 48 4,803 people and they measured the age stereotype and the tug. Now the tug is a balance assessment that I do, that any physical therapist would do with you, that you sit in a chair and I start the timer and you walk 10 feet as fast as you can and turn around and come back to the chair and sit down as fast as you can. So it's walking there and back 10 feet as fast as you can. And they measured it over 2 years. And the people with a negative age stereotype showed a larger decline in the tug, meaning they walk slower over 2 years. So it's just to show that um, all of this stuff has real impacts on your physical function. It's not just in your mind anymore. Like in the old days, we really didn't know that much about the effect of the mind, and we're still learning so much. Not that we know everything now, but it is just a really hot topic, mental health, and so much is coming out that really cannot be ignored anymore. Okay. Next, I'm going to try to switch my screen if I can figure this out. I did it last time and now I feel like, oh, there we go. Okay. So we're going to go back here. Let's see where I want to go. Yeah, I do want to go back here. So that is why I say a confident outlook on aging improves recovery from injury, protects your brain, protects your heart, your fall risk, your level of independence, where you live, adverse event, hospitalization, crossing the street, living longer, and your quality of life. So it's not just a trivial thing. This is something to really take seriously, because if you're not gaining confidence and doing things to actively grow your confidence, you're likely losing your confidence slowly over time. So now I'm going to share here, and I'm going to share with you some slides here. Okay. So I just like this image. Ageism refers to how we think, which is stereotypes, how we feel, prejudice, and how we act, discrimination towards others or ourselves based on age. Again, this one hit me so hard because I always thought of ageism as my attitudes towards other people. And this is also including how we think, feel, and act about ourselves based on our age. So that was a huge aha moment for me. And like I shared, I still work on that. Here's a little bit more about self efficacy. So, the belief we have in our own abilities, specifically our ability to meet the changes ahead of us and complete a task successfully. People's belief in their ability to control their functioning and events that affect their lives. So, just by you guys being in this class, I know that you guys have a higher level of self efficacy, or else you wouldn't be here. Just by signing up for this class, you had to believe that I could have a helpful answer, but then you also had to believe that you could implement the recommendations to decrease your fall risk and prevent falls. So, just by signing up and educating yourself, that already tells me that you have some level of self efficacy. So, where this is important is that people with a positive age stereotype have a higher level of self efficacy, and people with a negative age stereotype have a lower self efficacy. If self-efficacy is kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like an academic term, I think. I do use it, and it's kind of like a medical jargon term as well. I use it in my notes. Um, so if you are wanting more practical examples of what self-efficacy is, these are some statements that would show you if you have self-efficacy, or a higher sense of self-efficacy or lower. I can always manage to solve difficult problems if I try hard enough. If someone opposes me, I can find the ways and means to get what I want. It is easy for me to stick to my aim and accomplish my goals. I am confident that I could deal efficiently with unexpected events. Thanks to my resourcefulness, I know how to handle unforeseen situations. I can solve most problems if I invest the necessary effort. I can remain calm when facing difficulties because I can rely on my coping abilities. When I'm confronted with a problem, I can usually find several solutions. If I'm in trouble, I can usually think of a solution. I can usually handle whatever comes my way. So, if you agree with most of those, then I would say you have a higher sense of self efficacy. If some of those are question marks, then you might have a lower sense of self efficacy. We talked about that. These are some of the, so these are things I pulled off of social media that have to do with certain positive age stereotypes. So, this is a book by Becca Levy, that lady from Yale, Breaking the Age Code: How Your Beliefs About Aging Determine How Long and Well You Live. So, if this material is really resonating with you, you might want to read this book or listen to it on tape. Um, this is a woman on Instagram. Train with Joan is her handle. So if you're on Instagram and want to check her out, then you can. But like, this is not a woman that has been athletic all her life. You can see the before and after pictures. So I like this because it shows that it's never too late to start. And she's just rocking her body, you know? So, I don't know her story. I don't spend too much time on social media, but I would love to see an interview with her or something just to see where she started and what her motivation for um getting stronger and trying to inspire others was. Are You Ageist? England's first ever anti-ageism campaign launches. So the Center for Aging Better is launching Age Without Limits, a hard-hitting new campaign highlighting the issue of ageism. The charity warns of the scarring impact of ageism on us as we get older, on our health, job prospects, and the way we live our lives, with a knock-on effect on our society and the economy. I know personally a couple people that have tried to get jobs and were excluded, and they believed that it was because of their age. So this is a real thing, and it's awesome that there's so many people now fighting it and growing an awareness around it. This is one I love. Okay. It took years to get lines on your face, years to get a head full of silver strands, years to become the woman you are, years to know what you know, years to learn and unlearn things. It took so many years to obtain these gifts that so many weren't gifted. And now society's messaging says to erase signs of your lived life, and that is a bunch of malarkey. F their aging standards. So this handle is ageism is never in style. So this is like my pet peeve of every beauty product being anti-aging and stuff like that. I would love to hear examples of when you have been discriminated uh, against. So if you feel comfortable sharing that on the school platform, I would love to just hear any of your journeys with positive, negative, or otherwise um, ways that you've been treated because of your age. And then I like this lady. She said, "I'm sorry, what color TheraBand did you suggest?" And she's lifting like 100 pounds. Each of these plates is 45 pounds. Actually, she's probably lifting 130 because uh, these bars, I don't know how much this one weighs, but this silver bar, straight silver bar usually weighs 45 pounds. So I would guess 130, 135 pounds she's lifting. This is a class that I taught at a gym over in Oviedo. I was a substitute teacher when the main teacher had to go on vacation a few times. And it was so fun. And there are a lot of people not pictured, but they were all shapes and sizes. There were men and women, all had significant things in their medical history, like significant heart issues, diabetes, recovering from cancer, things like that. And so they're just regular people down the street, not, people on Instagram. And I don't know if I have it. There was a lot of talk around the time that I took this course. There was a Sports Illustrated um, edition with Martha Stewart, and they made her all glamorized and use Photoshop to make her body look beautiful. And so what we want to also be careful of is that is showing, it's like they're trying to have a positive age stereotype and not be ageist, but then by photoshopping her and still making it seem like aging can only look one way, and um, you have to lift, even the picture of this picture. Not everyone needs to be lifting 135 pounds. That is not what successful aging looks like. So everyone has a different everyone is entitled to their own definition of successful aging and graceful aging and whatever term you want to give it. And um yeah, so okay. Lastly, this is a question that you can ask that will open your mind to new possibilities. I learned about this idea a few years ago, and you can literally apply it to anything. You can apply it to physical things, emotional things. I'm trying to think of an example. Well, let me read them and then I'll think of an example. If you woke up tomorrow and overnight a miracle happened and your balance was exactly how you want it to be, your strength is exactly how you want it to be, you were confident as you want to be, how would you know the miracle had happened? So this is a little exercise where it's if you fell asleep and the miracle happened overnight and you didn't know it and you wake up, what would be different in your life that would show you that some kind of miracle must have happened because things are different and your balance is way better and your confidence is way higher? So what evidence would you see just going about your day, going about your morning, going about your night, just throughout the whole day that would show you that this miracle had happened? So that's one of my favorite questions. Another one is I wonder how awesome I can walk at the end of this 8 weeks together. I wonder how confident I can be at the end of this course. I wonder what it's going to feel like to be confident going into the store without a cane or a walker. I wonder how peaceful my thoughts can be as I improve my strength and balance. So, this I learned in the context of mental health. So, I'll try to, let's see. One of my areas that I've been working on is my beliefs around money. And so that's a really common one for people to have limiting beliefs around, where, oh, I have to work hard to make money, and oh, I'm never going to pay off my student loans, and oh, I'm, you know, terrified that I'm not going to have enough to retire, and I'm not investing enough. And like 99.9% of my beliefs up until like a year ago were around money, were completely negative, horrible. And I've worked on changing those. And this is a little exercise that you can do to help change those because for in this context, like I wonder how awesome of a money manager I can be. Well, 2 years ago or even a year ago, I just had this message that I'm terrible with money. I'm terrible with money. So just even asking the question, I wonder how awesome I could be at managing money. It opens the possibility that I could be awesome at this. I wonder how fast I could pay off my student loans. Changes it from like, I'm going to die with student loan debt to I wonder. Like, it just it expands your mind to consider possibilities that are there, but you just don't see because of your negative tapes that you play, and we all have them. So these are miracle questions or magic questions, and these can be fun to play with physically. So let me know if you like any of those, and I'm excited to talk to you guys more about this topic and see what is striking a chord with you um, and if there's anything that you have become more aware of through this module. Okay. Last page. We're going to go back to the workbook to page 36 so you can follow along in your workbook or on here. And so now we're going to talk about the good news. The good news is that we can change our perceptions. Do you have limiting beliefs about yourself or about aging in general? How do your friends and family act and speak about aging? How do you feel about your age and abilities when you're with them? That one is big. Do you feel more confident when you're around certain people than when you're around others? Um, do you feel more insecure about your age around certain people than others? That can tell you a lot. Pay attention. This is part of your homework. So pay attention to the media you're consuming, watching, listening to, subscribing to. So this could be TV shows, movies, celebrities, news, magazines, health publications, books, music, social media. How do you feel when you see a post? So, do you feel down about yourself and, oh, I'm not doing good enough? Or do you feel encouraged and empowered? So, um, it can speak to your own limiting beliefs, but it can also speak to the content itself that's being presented and the tone of voice. And um, notice your provider's messages and actions around aging. So, look at the decor around your healthcare clinics and offices. Are they are they basing their recommendations based on their assessment of you or on their assumptions? So, back to the example I used earlier, if someone was if I was working with someone and it was very obvious they're really out of breath, they start wheezing, it's really obvious that they need a rest break. I'm going to give them a rest break because for safety. They need a rest break. If they are chilling and they have no increased breathing rate, they're showing no signs that anything is difficult for them, I'm going to keep going because they haven't given me, there's nothing in my assessment of this human being right in front of me that says that they need a rest break. Versus what a lot of people do is assume that you need a million rest breaks in the span of a 30-minute workout. Assume that you can't open a door for yourself. Now, that one is I think it's common courtesy. I open the door, people hold doors for every age, but you get the point is are you making assumptions? This one goes into like a lot of caregivers struggle with this, with jumping in and offering too much assistance that's really not needed. When if you were patient, gave them time and set them up for success, like people could do a lot more on their own, but they're assuming that just because they're age, they can't do it. Um, so yeah, one good way around that is just asking them, hey, do you want to do this on your own? Or can you do this on your own? Um, and then if you already know that they can do it on their own, but you can ask, do you want to do this on your own or do you want help with this? Sometimes I just straight up ask that. Okay. Are your therapists challenging you appropriately based on your abilities or your age? And start conversations. So, just talking about this and getting conversations going, it makes it okay to talk about. That's why we've seen, especially with the growth since COVID around mental health awareness and mental health conversations, that used to be a more taboo topic to talk about. Like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about money, and don't talk about therapy, going to therapy. Um, Whereas now I feel like that is talked about a lot more, and everybody, not everybody, but this can be generational too. It can be familial. Like, what kind of household did you grow up in? Was it safe to talk about your emotions? But all of these conversations are safer to talk about today than they ever were before. So that's a great thing. Um, the other good news, we can build confidence in our physical abilities. So, how do we do this? We gain safe experience challenging our bodies. So, by doing strength and balance exercise and by practice getting to and from the floor safely to gain positive experiences with the floor. So, this course that I took, they called it Befriending the Floor. and they said, you might not ever be totally friends with the floor, but you might be acquaintances, or you might be okay with them. You might not absolutely hate the floor. So that was cute, but we really want to this goes back to, like, setting small goals and achieving them, and collecting evidence that your legs are strong, your core is strong, your arms are strong, um with the floor. And I'm excited because this week on Thursday, weather pending and internet abilities pending, the weather might be fine, but if I don't have power, then we will not meet Thursday. um, I haven't thought that far of what we'll do if that's the case, but um, we are going to start with some bed work that will prep us for getting to the floor. Um, Again, just plug for physical therapy is if you want to challenge your body at a higher level, work with a PT that will show you can be safe while doing these difficult things. Um, Learning the best way to land when you fall, we're going to cover that in this course, and little exercises that you can do to help train yourself, like Carolyn did last week with the tuck and roll. Um, and then make confidence building activities part of your routine. So, this was like what I said, if you're not actively, consciously trying to increase your confidence with this, it's probably slowly declining. So, if you make these confidence building activities part of your routine, you will be more intentional about building your confidence, and then be mindful of the messaging around you about aging. So again, I hope that for the rest of our time together that you are just so aware now of every single word that comes into your system by eyesight, whether it's something you see, it's something you hear, um, that is around aging, and question it for your own self and decide what you believe for yourself, um, about yourself and about others, just your aging process and the general aging in general. Okay, positive experiences increase confidence. Increased confidence leads to decreased risk of falling. That's what we want. And research shows that getting to and from the floor can be improved by strength training and practice in a safe way. So, again, if you have any desire to get stronger with getting to and from the floor, um, stay tuned because we are going to tackle that in our next exercise class. All right, let me see if I have any homework for you guys. I hope that that was maybe you guys, hopefully this was nothing here was new. Hopefully this message is spreading so wildly, like wildfire everywhere, that you guys have already heard all of this and already have positive age stereotypes. I can tell you that when I heard it about a year and a half ago, this was mind blowing, and has significantly changed the way that I practice with my patients one on one. It literally re energized me around physical therapy itself. I'm sure that every job has its own periods of getting excited about your job and then feeling burnt out and stuff. And I was in a phase of feeling burnt out. And this course that I took and all of this information um, just had a significant impact on me at that time. And I started doing floor work with everybody. And the number of times that I've heard how helpful it was, because inevitably my patient would fall again and then say, I fell, but I didn't hurt myself. And I didn't like that I fell, but I was more confident in getting up because I had a plan and I had just been on the floor recently instead of like 7 years ago. So, I hope that you found something in here valuable. Share with me by email or on school. Can't wait to hear your stories around this. And for any homework is just to be aware of the messages coming from yourself, your friends, your family, your providers, and society, and all of the media that you take in. Next week, if you want to like bring books that you have bought about aging or share anything from YouTube or social media, um, or any stories that you have that have had a significant impact on you and messaging around aging or discrimination that you've experienced, I would love to hear those. And the pages 32 and 33 are where you can continue writing those. So I will, oh, the other optional homework that could be useful is to fill out one example very thoroughly on the fall log. So page 14, go just column by column. Just don't, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just spend 5-10 minutes on it. This is to be used in conjunction with pages 16, 17. So you might have already circled some general fall risk factors that you know are an issue for you. But the idea is that when you're going through this third column here or fourth column, the root cause is, what do you think was the culprit for this fall? So whatever fall you're workshopping, do you think that your footwear impacted this fall or not really? Even if footwear is like one that stands out to you. So, and then can you do anything about it going forward to prevent that same fall from happening again? So, with that, I will leave you there. I hope you have a wonderful week. Please, everybody, stay safe. I hope everyone is prepared for the hurricane. I am keeping all of you in my prayers as Milton comes towards us, and I hope that everyone stays safe. I hope your homes are protected and safe, and no damage is done. So hopefully I will see you on Thursday, and have a great week until then.